What do we got? Welcome to the Driveline Academy podcast. I am your host, Deven Morgan, Director of Youth Baseball at Driveline, founder of Driveline Academy, and I'm joined as per usual on my right-hand side, Tony Davila. Good morning, Tone.
Good morning.
Tony's our coaching operations coordinator. On my left, Jeremy Techtiel. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning.
Jeremy is our coordinator without like a really specific title yet because he does a bunch of stuff. And we are joined today by the first guest appearance in the Driveline Academy podcast history. Driveline Director of Player Development, Driveline OG, I think we can say, Max Dutto. Max, golf clap.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So it's been a doozy of a couple weeks. I had the strange realization that like when I am doing a bunch of work that's like highly focused on like logistics and costs and figuring out the cost of like our auto feeders and all this other stuff, that like I listen to nothing but like Rick Ross and Pusha T. I listen to Hustler music exclusively. I have like deep in my brain, like Black Market, Hood Billionaire, It's Almost Dry. This stuff is just like carved into my subconscious at this point. Like I dream in Rick Ross lyrics when I'm in that phase. But then weirdly, over the course of the last week, we've had to talk about some player stuff, right? Working through some stuff with players and their parents. And I listened to a lot of Elton John. I'm like big on Tumbleweed Connection, like Honky Chateau, like Yellow Brick Road. I am hammering that. I'm hammering like the Jackson 5 and the Jacksons, the entire catalog, old Mike Jack stuff. I don't know what is going on there. It's a very strange thing. So that's the check-in with me.
Different generations.
Yeah.
I'm listening to Dua Lipa and all
Sure.
the modern pop stuff.
Sure. Little power pop. I'm into it. I'm into it.
That is different.
Yeah. So, the point of bringing on Dutto today is to talk, I think, about like the system of player development and how it serves. From the perspective of someone who has like truly been to the other side of the mountaintop, you know, like we get thrown all this information about like how many high school players there are, how many kids that play in college, and then how many kids that end up getting a chance to play some version of professional baseball. And that number goes to, it's like this giant funnel with like a really extreme angle. A lot of people, tiny amount of people. And I think there's a lot of power in just like talking to someone like you who has this experience and go like, all right, well, this is how it started and this is how it finished. And like, and you checked a box that like, I don't have that experience. And most of us don't. But I wanted to start today's show with a rant. Big shocker there. Because I think as we kind of peel back these layers, it's natural that we're going to start being very critical of some of the systems in our environment, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to make it very clear to you, dear listener, that like we're only having this conversation because the depth to which I give a shit. Like youth baseball for me resonates at a frequency that is very, very deep. I care about it a lot. I had a conversation with my 15-year-old daughter this week to try to like make her understand that like, look, just because you're a freshman in high school and you don't understand like the exact path of your life, that's okay. It took me 38 years to like find my path. But the odd thing is that like in this youth baseball thing, I think a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, for me, a perspective as a coach and a parent, is just like a pushback. It's a fear of failure. Which is weird because like Derek Jeter got on social media this week. And one of the first videos that he had that started going viral was somebody asked him a question on Instagram. What would you tell youth baseball players? And he says, get comfortable with failure. For us as youth coaches, I think a lot of times because the disproportionate percentage of us are parents who coach, we fear failure for our children because it seems like it's like it like affects this cup of happiness that they have, right? Like you only have this amount of happiness and there's kind of this presumption you can't fill that cup. So when we fail in baseball, we like have this hyper aggressive reaction against that. We combine that with kind of the stuff we've been talking about for the last several episodes, which is like we have one carrot on the end of one stick and it's winning, and that's the only thing we track. And it's the thing that we become a slave to. And then you combine that with the fact that when we don't get that result, we have this emotional reaction to it because I fear it. I fear it for my children, but like it's baseball. And I hate that old thing of like the game it's based on failure. Like I hate that, but at the same time it is true. Like the old saw of you go 3 for 10 and you make it into the hall is like broadly kind of true. I mean, there's some layers to that and we can get into that or whatever. But it doesn't make sense for us to have that disposition about youth baseball when it is completely out of step with everything that comes after. It's the captain. It is Derek Jeter telling us that you need to be comfortable with failure. But as parents and coaches in youth baseball, a lot of times we just have this extreme emotional reaction against that, which is crazy because, working here for as long as I have, over 4.5 or whatever years, I've had the opportunity to talk to people like you, Dutto, who have been to the other side of the mountaintop. And largely all those people, Birdman, right? Robbie Tenorowitz, Sherman Graves, Cole Uvala, TJ Antone, all of them have gone through some degree of like significant failure or struggle, and they persisted through that. The most interesting, the most successful, the most driven people that I know as an adult are all people that have gone through trauma, failure, and like you had to decide how are you going to respond to these things. For us within the academy, we leverage data as a way to kind of provide context for the reason for that response, right? The reason you should persist through failure is you know that you are tracking towards the thing that you want. The reason you should persist through losing this game is that like your stuff plays, you are on a path. And it's youth baseball. It should be the lowest level of consequence. Mm-hmm. And it's also the lowest level of competition. But all too often, we don't take signal from guys like you that have been to that other side of things. And we're just like, oh, I'm so terrified if we lose.
Right.
And that's crazy.
Yeah. No, and I think, from the player development side to start, right? I think honestly what the best thing that we do is teach players those life skills, right? Of just like, you're going to be up and down the whole time. That's what life is. That's what the game of baseball is. That's what getting better at something is. And you're here because you're trying to get better at these certain skills. Our job is just tell you what those skills are and give you a map and a chance to iterate on that process over and over again. And it's really not much more complicated than that.
Right.
I think all the technical knowledge leads up to like a very simple process of like assess, set a goal, create a plan, train, see where we're at, And through that whole process, we see like the ups and downs of it. And like you just don't get to the other side of getting better without the failure aspect, So like that's the beautiful thing about baseball. It's a beautiful thing about youth baseball in particular is like you get to see kids go through that. And now we have an opportunity to get the most out of it.
Yeah.
Get the most out of it. And like, have that development process happen in real time. And when we do that and you see like the gains that they get from it, both on the baseball field, work habits, life habits, whatever, like that's a beautiful thing. And that's like me on the player development side, that's what I'm really focused on,
Yeah. So dear listener, just be very clear that like as we kind of pull at these strings and we hold ourselves accountable, we hold our environment and our industry accountable, we're only doing that, and I'm doing it because the depth to which I love it, the depth to which it means something to me to see a young athlete that starts to learn how to respond, right? Because failure is coming, struggle is coming. It is just inevitable. So the question is Push T lyric, how do you respond, right? And I think one of the things we can kind of talk through today, Dutto, for you specifically, is that like how you learned those tools, right? Because like obviously there's a point where you get drafted by a pro org and you have quantifiable tools that hopefully they're making that decision on. Some franchises are, some franchises aren't. We'll get into that.
I have some thoughts. Yeah.
Sure. But like the other part of that is that like, again, I just don't think, I don't think that you get to that stage unless you learn the interpersonal part of that. It's like, how do I manage myself through struggle and failure? So that's a little bit of a table setting.
I think a big thing is, what Max touched on is like, as for us on the player development side, it's beautiful to see kind of that growth and like we see that eventual trend line move up and we kind of like get to see that the player reach that point of development, but we have those ups and downs in there. I think a big problem in youth baseball that we see is that we only want to see those ups.
Sure.
And like with kids who struggle to like accept failure and learn from failure, if us coaches and trainers are only trying to see that those high points, when we do see those failures, and we can't handle it, how do we expect the youth players to handle it? And we have to be able to help them through those valleys to see those highs. And I think that's like the main.
And we have a controlled environment here to do it in.
Yeah.
Right. We had 13U practice last night, and we did mixed pitch. Instead of randomizing it, I gave some of our assistant coaches a little bit more leeway to dice them up. Like if they felt like they were sitting fastball, throw them 3 straight curveballs. If they felt like they were sitting curveball, just blow their doors off.
It was nasty.
It was nasty. A lot of failure happened.
Yeah.
A lot of failure happened. A lot of kids, including some relatives here, to people in this podcast, were like, "This is a lot more fun when we just have fastballs and we can crush it." And I was like, "Yeah, I am sure it is."
Yeah.
Would you rather fail in here or fail out there?
Yeah.
Because you're going to fail. If you can fail in here, we can create the right environment for you to fail in, give you the context of why we are forcing you to fail. And at the end of, we did it for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
The first 20 minutes was rough. It looked real rough. Lots of swings and misses, lots of slamming bats down on the ground. The last 20 minutes, not as much.
Yeah.
A lot of contact being made. They adjust. They self-organize. But like to be able to control the environment that they're failing in as opposed to like failing in the middle of a tournament. Where like we can't control that environment, then they might get in the car with mom and dad, and we can't control that either. And what is said and like the takeaways, what's being focused on, I think that's really important.
And literally, I'm outside of the cage as both an administrator and also happening to be a parent of one of the child that's in the cohort. Like I'm trying to provide context. I was just sitting side view taking video of all of it. And there were a couple kids that would come over, and I'm very big on like watching body language when you walk out of the cage. And there were a couple of those kids who were walking out of the cage, and like the body language was kind of bad. It's like, okay, come over. I want you to watch this video. Swing looks great. You were on plane. We were not on time. So now you just get a chance to ask that other question. Like, because what I'm trying to triage is I don't want them to go down a pathway getting yipped up about their swing. Right? Hey, you were just behind on the fastball. You didn't get the barrel to where it needed to be on time, but everything like the movement solution was there. It was just 0.3 of a millisecond behind where it needed to be, right? So then it allows for kind of the next layer of conversation. Like, all right, well, what was the count? Okay, well, the machine started me backwards, curveball, and then I was looking curveball, and they threw me fastball on the last one. Okay, all right. So what's the takeaway from there? We probably just need to sit fastball all times and trust our ability to adjust on the off speed, and just trust your eyes, trust kind of this perceptual process. But like at the end of the day, yeah, man, there's some technical approach stuff that's there. But what I'm trying to do is just kind of put some solve on the fact that like we're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You watch your swing. Is this a bad swing? No, you're just off time. Okay, well, hitting is hard. Like
Yeah. I think the concept of controlled failure, like controlled environments of failure, is like very important to younger athletes. It's like when you're able to provide those environments and then also provide the context that you're talking about, now it's a learning moment. It's not just a struggle. And for youth athletes, you don't want to constantly put them in environments of failure, obviously, but like they have to have those and have that context to understand why they're failing. How do we get past that environment of failure? If we can continue to improve in this area, you won't see that area of failure anymore. And I think that controlled aspect is very important. I mean, it's something like in other sports like basketball or something, for example, you are doing conditioning in practice because that's the controlled failure of your conditioning. Whereas then in games, when you fail, it's like, oh, how do we fix this? We ran out the gym. It's like, okay, well, we're working on it in practice because we want to have it ready for the game. So.
I think the name of the game, right, and all coaching is like the process you just went over. You're just like always guiding them back to what the task is at hand. And you can give suggestions, right? You can give some technique suggestions, give some like mental suggestions, but the only goal of that day and that practice and that coaching moment is to make sure they are compounding those practice days. Because we're just not getting better on this swing. We're not even getting better today.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're getting better over time, over a program, over months and years. So any systems that we build are geared towards that over anything, And I think that's probably something that's missing quite a bit on the youth side too. I mean, like, I think all the problems that we talk about on the youth side, like, they're just the same problems in college, and pro. It's just like not even different at all. But especially youth, because like, where are the incentives, right? have fun sometimes. Maybe the money grab
Maybe.
aspect sometimes. Maybe just like being in that, social inner circle of like winning travel ball games, whatever does it for people. But when in reality, it's like, have fun, enjoy the game. Two, it's gonna be hard to do that if you're not playing well, right?
Yep.
You're just not gonna have that much fun if you're not very good. So going through that process is just like, what do I need to get better at, and just practicing that every day is what you do, and it gets back to like the failure cycle that we talked about earlier. So
Yeah, and like I'm so curious to see what. So for the 13U group, live ABs on Sunday. So they just got carved on Thursday, and I'm really, really curious and excited to see what it looks like for them to go out and compete on Sunday, relative to kind of what the training environment they just got through. And like the one of the most interesting things that happened, just so happened to be with my kid. He came out of the cage for one of those rounds, and he wanted to see his video, and he was like, "Oh, did I toe tap?" Like, and I was so happy to hear him ask that question, because to me what that means is that he is trying to almost operate in like this flow state where just like the movement is not, I'm going to move X way to try to create Y outcome. It is, I am trying to create Y outcome, and I have a range of freedom of movement solutions and perceptual solutions that I'm going to try to get there. And like, sure, that is a thing that you need at 13, trying to make a decision about, am I seeing fastball or curve? I'm also reasonably confident that like, if you have to step in the box against a really, really high level thrower, that you're just not going to be set up in a good place if you are in consideration of like, well, I got to get my front foot down early. Like, I don't know,
Keep your hands in or whatever.
right,
yeah.
man. Like, and I understand that there's value to that stuff in training, because in training you're trying to drive an adaptation. But in competition, I keep going back to like, the principles of hitting training blog that Ochart did like in 18, talking about kind of these problems like internal cueing and taking away motor output because you're trying to solve a mechanical task and trying to solve a perceptual task.
right, it just gets back to the goal, right? Like the goal is not to have a nice looking toe tap or whatever, have something
Right.
that feels good. Like your goal is to barrel the ball,
Right.
hit a line drive to the pull side, hit a line drive up the middle. It doesn't matter
Right.
actually what the goal is. It matters that you have one.
Right.
And then that process, right? Like I toe tapped, I did whatever, made some hand adjustments. I had this swing thought.
Right.
It's always like tied to that goal,
Right.
and that's the most important thing. Like, and honestly, the most frustrating thing was seeing like hitting or pitching or whatever coaching online. It's just like the focus is on the movement.
Right.
Like something that no one else does about the movement, which is just not true. We know a lot about what matters on the baseball field, and we know the power of intention in training, and how intention is the most important part of training, and that will never ever change. So as long as those like adjustments are tied back to that, that's the thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I think talking about like the intention and then learning from whatever happens in that while you're using that intention. Like the other day I had my group do like easy fastballs. We were trying to just move as fast as possible. I noticed my team was struggling with that after their high school seasons, where they're probably trying to, hit more for contact.
Trying to make a coach happy.
Yeah, and just put balls in play. I noticed we were kind of swinging like that in the cages, and so I was putting on easy fastballs and told them, move as fast as you can. We're trying to PR here. You're trying to hit the ball as hard as you can. And I saw multiple kids who, one kid actually came up to me and asked, so like, am I just like trying to hit a home run right now? And I'm like, yes, exactly. Try to hit the ball as far as you can, like swing the bat as fast as you can. And then based off of that, some kids did really see like I had 4 kids PR in that one practice session. I went up to them afterwards and said like, what was that difference that you felt? Because then that's where you kind of, there's that training adaptation is like, okay, we achieved the output that we were looking for. Now, can you conceptualize what changed in your swing or whatever, or even just your mentality? How that's the kind of like adaptation that we're looking for,
Right.
not I got my arm here. That's the adaptation. Now, hopefully that makes the output better.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Well, yeah. As long as it did, right? Then that's
Yeah,
great. That's
yeah,
great. That's
yeah.
what we're searching for in training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We work from the output backwards is, I think, a better way to view it than like the input, hoping it changes the output.
Yeah. Yeah. So, to take advantage of this time to kind of like unpack this from someone who, again, has been over the proverbial mountaintop, what's your first like baseball memory? Like, what's the thing, like the cornerstone piece that like, where does that start? Does that start like before 8, 9, 10, before organized baseball?
Oh yeah,
Does it start? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, yeah, baseball rat from the beginning.
Right.
Yeah, it's always a favorite sport. And I think I knew it. It's like I really wanted to play after like 12-year-old little league.
Right.
Where it's just like I guess kind of better than most of the players. Like, and I love doing it. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I mean, I played t-ball. Like,
Yeah.
just loved it. Just obsessed with it. Just
Yeah.
like that kid of like all of like the 30 kids playing t-ball, and there's like one set of parents enjoying it and like 2 kids enjoying it. Like I was
Yeah.
just like one of the 2 kids. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, half are picking daisies. And half
Yeah,
are, like,
yeah. Just like no one's here having fun except for you. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny because like I think a lot of the things that that bang around in my brain about t-ball specifically, or like first year kid pitch, is all about trying to create more of those kids that actually enjoy the activity, as opposed to the disproportionate majority that are like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to get in the box and there's going to be like a spray of, I don't know, probably a 16-foot diameter of like where these balls are going to land. And eventually I might swing at one.
Yeah.
Like my wife went to a friend's t-ball game. No, I'm sorry, not t-ball, coach pitch game a couple weekends ago. And there's a kid in the box and he swung and missed at, I think 15 pitches before finally connecting on one. And the parent that's throwing is like literally just throwing from 46. And you as a parent, you're like, I've been that parent. I have been that
trying
parent.
to find barrel. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I am desperate to try to find a barrel, and then it's like the descent angle is like 30 degrees because you get super like dart thrower or whatever, and it's like nobody's just like, can we just do this from like side soft?
Yeah.
Can we just do that? Can we do something to kind of get out of this mold of like trying to train like 6-year-olds to play baseball the same way that 12-year-olds do, and 12-year-olds play the same as 18s? Like we're just like, nope, gotta throw from 46.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's brutal, dude. It's
Right.
brutal. So it's like, I think about systems like that because to a degree, that one kid on a field of 11 when it's in t-ball that's really enjoying, is captivated by all of it, is a little bit of an outlier.
Yeah,
because,
exactly.
Because the system isn't designed to drive more engagement.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's a realization I've come to working in baseball, is like, it's so important that we have like this outside presence kind of coming in, because it's just an industry made up of those kids who actually enjoyed t-ball.
Right.
It's just like one out of 50 of them. And those are the people working in baseball, like, obviously.
Right.
And that's why like nothing really changes, right? Just like starting from t-ball and going up I think is a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Because you start to realize those things. You start to realize like we can make this a lot more fun for a lot more people, and give a lot of those kids the same experience that I had, or whoever else was loving it had.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you talk about like memories and people who enjoyed baseball. Like when I think of like when I first started baseball and why like I still enjoy baseball to this day. When I was playing t-ball, coach pitch, little league, like I don't really remember. I remember like one game where I had like a complete game shutout or whatever in little league, but 90% of my memories had nothing to do with baseball.
No, right. Right.
And like it was just like the environment that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I think that's like as long as we can continue to build on that environment. Like I just remember my little league championship. There was always like a food truck out in the middle of center field past the fence, and like kids from all the teams came to no matter if your team was in the championship, like all the kids came, and it was all your friends from your neighborhood, and you got to like, your parents gave you like $5 to go to the food truck and get a hot dog and candy, and like that was kind of like what built that love for baseball. And I think the more we can continue to build on that environment, and like it doesn't matter what the rules of the game are necessarily, like I could have cared less whether I was pitching or it was a coach pitching, like at that age, like
no one cares.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, like you're saying, just we can continue to change those like environments for the playing environment to match the outside environment.
Oh yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. So early t-ball memories are positive. Little League All-Star, I'm going to assume.
Oh yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
go,
yeah.
dude.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Just obsessed with it. Like Little League All Stars from 9 to 12, and
Yeah.
just jumped right into the travel ball scene after that. So.
Yeah.
How many games a year do you think you played?
You know what? I had a very reasonable travel baseball coach. He's actually awesome. Eric Johnson runs EJ Sports in the Bay Area.
Okay.
He's a great guy. So he was pretty good about that. We didn't play a ton of games, but we crushed like tactical baseball stuff and had like 3 to 4 practices a week. And during the summer we would play every weekend. So I think from 13 on, I was probably like 50 to 70 games a year, which is a good amount. But like I know there's some psychotic schedules out there nowadays. So
I mean, I like to point out that guy who proverbial reached the mountaintop,
okay,
played Little League.
very very, very generous. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you played Little League through age 12, and now we have kids who were playing 8U travel ball. 6U travel ball, where they play those 50 game schedules in 6U travel ball or whatever.
Yeah, which I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably think that's absurd. So
You play them in late May, and they've got 47 games on their schedule already.
Yeah.
It's
why are we doing that?
It's so hard to not call people out because I, as an obsessive about our industry and about our ecosystem, it's just there are people that are just blatantly blowing that way out of the water. They're just way off. So okay, so 13-year-old Max Dutto, Little League All-Star, and is going to kind of start like this middle ground. Were you aware that like 90-foot baseball was a thing that was coming? Is that something that you guys were kind of like really talking about or working towards, or was it just kind of like this is what the next like 6 weeks, 6 months look like?
I think it was always a thing, right? Like as a 13-year-old, I think the kids are probably more aware of that than anyone. And I was definitely like, intimidated by it, just like every other kid. So, but there's nothing we did to actively work on it besides just like transitioning and just like playing on the field. It's like at that point, we track pitching velocity obviously, but there's nothing of like, hey, what's gonna get you ready to hit on the 90-foot level as like a 130-pound 13-year-old or 14-year-old.
Right.
It was just more like, hey, go get them. Hit the ball low and hard. See what happens. So that was it. And I think we still have quite a bit of that with hitting today. Just not understanding, hey, if you swing the bat faster, you're gonna have a lot more fun on the 90-foot level compared to other kids.
Right.
So no, we did not really transition to that. Like, but again, like I was fine, good enough, right?
Yeah.
Which just gets us to like, the genetic kind of crapshoot
Sure.
we're getting into. Like it just happened to be one of the kids who was like good enough to play and have success on the 90-foot diamond.
So that was going to be kind of my next question. Is it like, what did of the kids that you were playing with at like 12 or 13, how many of them were still playing at 15, 16?
But so I think my freshman year of high school was when I noticed like everyone stopped playing baseball. Like went to football, went to lacrosse, whatever. Just like the skill part wasn't there, and then most importantly, right, it's like the physical part was not there at all.
Right.
So I mean, like all the freshman football lifting you can do,
Sure.
didn't really work, and like we can talk about how effective those programs are, but the physical part was definitely number one.
Yeah, because like it's funny because I feel like we're still dealing with the long tail attributes of guys 30 years ago saying that baseball players shouldn't lift, because the people that got told to, or that baseball players shouldn't do it, basically any strength training like that. I mean, that was the thing that I remember. You're going to move slow, right? You're going to move slow. It's going to compromise your swing. It's going to compromise your throwing mechanics. Like we are actively telling people not to get strong.
Yeah, I remember hearing bench press shortens your muscles.
I never bench pressed. Never bench pressed until college for that reason.
And like simultaneously, our sport is an output sport. It's not only output, it's not powerlifting, but it sure as heck is a combination of motor coordination and output.
I remember hearing about like Tyler O'Neill. Like people like, he's just too like lifts way too much to be a functional baseball player.
And that was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Right?
This was not like very long ago, and that is clearly not the case.
Yeah, we talk about his swing and miss, I guess, but like 17% barrel rate or whatever is going to play.
He's going to play.
Yeah, that'll play.
It's going to play.
That'll play. And to a degree, it plays for him in a different way than a different player with a different skill set and different training history would have. Like there are pathways viable for kind of all of those kids. Like I can think about like our 14U cohort in the academy, and I can think about one kid in particular who is a little, I mean, he's not Tyler O'Neill. He's 14. I'm certainly not going to say anything that nice about him and really gas him up. But like, kid's 14 years old, top 8 EVs, upper 8s, PR I think is like 91 or something like that right now, right? There is another kid in that same cohort who is, higher bat to ball skill, hits the ball decently hard, but like there's a pathway for both of those kids to kind of continue for the things that they all kind of are. There's a little bit of stratification and segmentation there, right? And it's not to say that like holistically what's beneficial for both of them is moving the bat faster to hit the ball harder. Like that's a thing for both. But, when you get into high school and college baseball, you have a 4-hitter for a reason, right? And you have a 1-2 hitter for a reason. But I think a lot of times we just kind of go like one box and like one type of player super, super early. And it's like, maybe that box doesn't suit everybody,
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting to get into like the technical side of that and like kind of share some of the data we have on how important output is and like some of the physical characteristics we know it's like are just going to predict your bat speed and predict your performance,
Right.
But take it a step back, like as far as like that point of like freshman year in high school where everyone starts to quit. I think I'll probably retract my statement of like the physical part was like the most important thing, or just like the biggest predictor of like kids who didn't play baseball after freshman year of high school. But I think it's probably closer to half and half of just like not being good enough because I'm not physical, and also just like this is so boring, the practices that we do. Like this, everything we're doing is like this doesn't get me better. Like I want to get better. I really want to get better, and just like on top of school, like potentially the other sport I play. Maybe another travel team I'm playing for. It's like I'm not getting better here, and like I don't see a path. So I think that was the big thing, right? And just like the big focus on like tactical baseball work, like getting your first and thirds and bunties in, which are stuff you have to do, but not the whole practice, So I think that was the big thing too. Just like I don't see a path to get better. I'm probably just gonna go have fun with my friends. Like I don't really see this working out for me. At that point, like you're kind of thinking that way as like a 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah, if it's not engaging, you get no feedback about like it actually putting you on a path towards getting somewhere in the future. And your experience is defined by some like, old alcoholic. Like why would you stay?
As a baseball rat, did you have those thoughts?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I was leading the bunties. I was just like,
Let's
where
go.
are you at? Where are you at? I'm supposed to cover second there. Like that was me. So, but yeah, which is the exact problem.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the
The
only
outliers.
people we have
Yes.
working in baseball.
Correct.
So, yeah. I mean, that's just the big thing.
Yeah. So freshman year, varsity on?
No,
JV?
I played freshman and then varsity the next year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, went to a pretty big high school. So
Yeah.
not a huge thing for freshmen to play varsity at that
And that's
point.
where
But
a physicality thing probably comes in as well.
right, it's just
Freshman
like
versus senior.
yeah, it's like
Massive.
I had no chance to hit a home run. Just like the next year, that was not a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And that's mostly luck, right? Like I didn't really do anything to do that or like practice hitting home runs. I practiced just like everyone else did.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like a big eye-opening thing. Like looking back,
Yeah.
it's like I got pretty lucky to be able to do that. Plus BB Core bats.
Oh, I mean,
And a short porch in right field. So like that helped.
I mean, I do think it's funny you kind of retracted that statement, but I do think that physical aspect, like you were talking about the changes to 60, 90 feet bases, right? There's one, you were talking about memories of that. There's one acute memory I have of like, oh, I'm going into like older levels of baseball, was that change from like drop 8 to drop 5 or whatever, or to drop 3, how the bats get heavier. And that's like a massive change.
Yeah.
You're swinging, we train with overload bats and stuff, and it's like, you see kids swing change when they use those and things like that. Like changing how much weight you're swinging is a massive change in how you execute the game of baseball. And if you don't
100%.
prepare for that moment, like like you said, there will be the kids, the gym rats, the baseball rats that figure it out.
Figure it out.
But the kids that don't are like, wow, there's this massive impediment into my like success in baseball.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't prepare them for that, that's when you get the kids that, you know, are like, I'm just going to go have fun with my friends or whatever.
Yeah, the bat is swinging you.
Yeah.
And what's funny is it because, again, baseball exists in this weird kind of state right now where there is part of our industry that is highly technical and highly advanced, and part of it is still in the complete dark ages. We have 14-year-olds that have to swing BB core bats.
Mm-hmm.
We know next to nothing about like swing weight and MOI, moment of inertia, relative to these bats. I, as a parent of a 13-year-old player who has to swing BB core next year, was like, all right, like I had this whole menagerie of like, all right, well, moving into the year, he's going to move up to swing 31 and 32-inch speed trainers to try to get ready. And then we're going to take the drop 8 game bat away, and we're going to start to introduce the drop 5. And I had a drop 6 wood bat. And then I literally bought like 3 different BB core bats to try to find the one that had the lowest swing weight. So he is compliant within the standard. He's swinging something that's heavier, but it's not giving him negative stimulus in terms of like literally having a swing weight that is beyond his ability to get on time with a barrel without like really compromising his swing mechanics or approach. It's a messy path.
Yeah, it's pretty messy.
That like broadly, I think a lot of players and parents don't really are even cognizant of. And to submit the evidence there, look at the price of like drop 5 USSSA bats in a 31 or a 32-inch configuration. There are parents that are spending $500+ and more if you're looking for the hot bats that are in that configuration. What, like, why? The BB core standard is coming for you. It is an inevitability, much like 90-foot baseball. But if you sacrifice current term because I want to hit, 250-foot bombs at a 13-year-old level, you are fundamentally missing time to get competition ready for what is expected, and what has to happen is mandatory in like a 6-month window.
And that's going back to the like preparing kids for failure and a controlled environment for failure. If you spend that off season or whatever figuring out how to swing the right bat, or the year before figuring out how to swing the right bat versus like getting them just the right bat for that age, and then the next year they're just totally into that uncontrolled failure environment, then they'll once again go play with their friends instead of playing baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too, right? It's just like making it okay to not be a great freshman baseball player, not be a great baseball player at 16. Like at that point, we could probably do quite a bit to, train the force output part, train the strength aspect part, the power aspect part. But if you make that transition too early, it's like there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's part of it. That's part of it, right? I think that's one of the philosophies that we bring to folks too, is like, you just don't have to be that great at 15, 16. Here's the target. Your freshman baseball season could not matter less than what it does right now, except to like, to your high school coach, maybe. But what we can do is get you like potentially throwing 95 by the time you're 18, 19. Get you hitting the ball, 107, 110 by the time you're 18, 19. And those are the things that they're going to get you to the next level. And like training to reach those things, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. And having some games while you're at it, like learning the tactical baseball stuff, having fun with your friends, as long as like those goals are in your reach, like, man, I think that you're going to keep a lot of players in baseball if like you keep it simple like that. And it truly is that simple. If like, if you're hitting the ball, 105 plus as a 18-year-old, you're going to play college baseball.
Yeah, you're going
to do that. Yeah, if you throw your average fastball is like 91, 92, I don't see you not having a spot right in the future if you still like the game and enjoy that process of trying to get better. So, and I think that's why we make such a big deal of that to begin with. I think that was the big thing that's missing in my career too. It's like, I didn't even know that was important. I didn't even know that was something that I could go out and achieve. Like never once thought about that. And if me and others like baseball rats, like, already on the track to like keep playing after high school, didn't know that, imagine what it was like for the kid who was like pretty good or on the edge, right? And just like small, couldn't make it or whatever. There's just no path for those folks other than just like hanging around on the team, maybe having fun with your friends, if you just love baseball to begin with. So it's just like kind of this big circle that can just be easily solved. And that's the thing that excites me the most about Academy. So
Yeah, and it's the funny thing is that I think you could even go again, like jump in the time machine when you have parents that are sending signal to players at 10, 11, 12, where they are defining their child's experiences by wins and losses. Man, you're cutting off that path. You're doing one of two things. You're either cutting off that path, or you are going to be a slave to the winning conditions of 10, 11, 12. And like the thing that I love is you go watch a little league game, you go watch a 12U game or younger, and you have parents who are very well intentioned, where it's like, we can debate that a little bit. That's fair, but like it's like you literally have like 9 coaches, because you have 2 coaches in the dugout, but you have 7 other coaches on in the stands.
Yeah.
Who are hyper vigilant about correcting every single technical flaw. And it's like, go to an 18U game. Listen. You've had this massive constriction of the player population. The parents that are left over from what I'm sure that there are 18U parents that suffer the same flaw, but largely those games are quiet. And what you hear is the dugout.
Right.
I wish, and maybe this is just something I'll hit pause on record and we'll do this like a 30-second stand-up. I almost feel like we should invite our entire academy out to one of our 2 18U games and specifically say, parents, listen to these parents.
Yeah.
What is the behavior they exemplify, right? And understand that like we're not helping when we have 9 different signals that is getting sent to 2 or 3 different kids simultaneously. We are getting in the way of their learning.
Yeah.
And sometimes that learning is a process of coaches being vocal coaches and being leaders of young men and women, right? And that is the thing, right? You can't absolve yourself of the need to teach. But the best type of teaching, like math class doesn't have 5 math teachers, right? It has 1 person who goes, this is the way that you solve this equation, and it is in consideration of the tools you need now and the functional base of understanding you need to decide and solve higher level math later.
Yeah, you rarely see a pro athlete, watching their kid's game or something, or someone who works in sports, like, screaming at the game. They're like yelling instruction, especially like they're probably very, very quiet. They're just chilled out, and they know, because deep down they know what the deal is. Like, you gotta get pretty lucky. Like that's how they made it.
No, and those parents 9 times out of 10 don't sit in the bleachers. They're on the right field or left field fence, way, way away from everybody else. So for those of us that are parents that don't check that box, where like I'm never going to be able to show up to a kid's game and be like, I played in the show, I played D1, yada yada. I'm never going to be able to do that. Look at what those men and women are doing and look at how they're behaving and ask yourself that question: why? Why is the dad who played in the show, who played, D1 baseball, had offers, whatever, why is that dad way away from the rest of us down the right field line drinking a coffee? Because he can't handle it, right? Because there's some acknowledgement that like what is happening here doesn't serve. So to kind of get back to it, right? So varsity as a sophomore?
Yep. Yeah, I just played through senior year.
So but also playing some kind of like travel or club ball in parallel to that, right? What was juggling those 2 environments like?
It was pretty easy. Like, one, like I just like was lucky to get a lot of playing time, like, and didn't have to worry about, trying to fight for playing time on like other teams or my high school team, or like my high school coach didn't like my travel ball coach.
Sure.
Right. Which is like pretty common.
Yeah.
Like you could just be really good and still be at a disadvantage because like some weird relationship like that. So I got lucky. I didn't have to deal with those things. And again, like pretty reasonable travel coach. By the time I was like, 16, 17, I started to get like, more and more like wrapped up in the travel baseball scene and just like loved it. Right. Just like playing baseball all the time, tournaments, showcases, just something that I really enjoyed doing. Got to meet a lot of folks just like around the travel ball game.
Sure.
So started playing on different teams, traveling a lot, and kind of started getting wrapped up into that. So I didn't necessarily have all that problem. I just wanted to get as much baseball in as I could.
So, and when and I know that like this concept of workload that we've introduced to baseball is like, I don't know, I feel like it's 36 months old maybe. Are you doing anything to try to like manage one side against the other, like, or did they kind of exist seasonally in different boxes so you didn't have to try to do both? Like, how did that play out?
I think the only real issue I had is like high school workouts versus like, you know, the private coach workouts, which I think is something, you know, point of friction that a lot of people have, you know, just all over the travel ball world. That was pretty much it. I specialized in baseball like much earlier. I stopped playing everything, you know, after my freshman year of high school. So it was easy. It's just like I just had baseball, and that was it. And I made that decision for that. I just want to play baseball. That's it. That was really the only thing that I could think of. And looking back, like the biggest thing I wish I had right away was that base of strength and physical competency that could have taken me through my college and pro career. And like,
Sure.
We'll get to the second part of what I really wish I had in a little bit, but allow me to work more on the skill side, not to worry so much about the strength side.
So at what point does college baseball start to become like a real, like intentional thing that also seems reachable? Because I think right now, our industry is pushing this to this point where it's like 2027 uncommitted.
Yeah.
Eighth
Like,
graders getting offers.
Man, like that's a hashtag that you can click. And we've kind of gone down this weird path over the last probably, I don't know, 5 to 7 years. So again, from when did that start being like a real thing that you started kind of tracking against?
Yeah, my freshman year of high school, for sure. After probably that summer and first year of high school, like started looking at it pretty closely. After sophomore year, especially, like started to heat up. I think I got like my first, you know, college offer like before junior year of high school.
Okay.
Which isn't that crazy compared to nowadays, right?
Right.
Like I wasn't, you know, top 5 round like pick or whatever. It was just getting offered in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Like probably like the tier below that, just like, you know, good enough to go D1 or something. So around that time, like got pretty serious and just keep making the showcase rounds. Like I think I started getting them after I went to a perfect game showcase and got like a good rating or something.
And
like that stuff really helps, you know.
So what did you get like the word salad review of like your skills back then? You know, good hands,
so funny. We should probably look it up. It's like ridiculous blurb.
Handsy athlete or whatever.
Athletic.
Great hands, great leader out there.
Yeah.
Just like saw me for like 3 hours.
Fluid
like
barrel or whatever those phrases are that they use.
Yeah. So and I just look back on it, just like there I don't even remember a radar gun being there. You know who was at one of the first showcases I went to was Joey Gallo. I remember Joey Gallo was there, and we were like 15, and he was hitting balls like right center field, just like at a spring training field, just like way out, just like 400-foot home runs. It's unbelievable, and that's like you don't miss that guy, right? Like no one in the world misses that guy. Like you just pretty easy to see, but like why am I better than like the other guys that you saw?
Right.
You know? It's like there's no radar gun, there's no measurables. I think they measured like throwing velocity across the diamond, which I imagine is, you know, probably not probably a decent proxy for physical output. But yeah, it's just like looking back, it's like, man, you could have given anyone else that rating, you know?
That's so great.
So funny.
The thing I love about the infield thrown ball velocity is that it's just a pull down.
Yeah.
Like nowadays it's just a pull down, but like it's like we're gonna play as if what you're gonna do is you're gonna field like a 3-hopper and then you're gonna take like 9 steps, and like what are we doing? Just measure pull downs if what you really want is pull down velocity. But instead it's like it's this ridiculous, you know, it's not an infield throw. It's a pull down.
Yeah, I guess more off topic too, but I love seeing the disparity between the infield pull down and like the fluid batting practice swing. Like why aren't you doing the same thing, man? Like come on. Yeah, no one cares about. I guess people do care about how fluid your swing is, but why aren't you just like selling out for exit velocity right now?
Sure. I mean, if that's what we're gonna do, why don't you just put a ball on a tee and like Happy Gilmore into it?
Yeah,
you know, well, we could do that too. You know, we could just serve up like 45-mile-an-hour, you know, cupcakes and have you just try to, you know, full on Beezer bat, send it into the parking lot. Like we could do that too, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's more valuable than watching 10 swings of batting practice, honestly. Yeah.
Right. Ending or either starting or ending with a couple bunts,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is
Every
my
time.
position on this is well
Every time.
stated.
But yeah, I mean, so getting to the, the travel ball scene, the showcase scene, like that's the part I really look back on, just think of, man, this could have been so much different. Because like, and it's easy to see like the money grab aspect once you like,
Yep.
have a real job and start working and just are able to have that perspective. And the way recruiting works is just so subjective. Right. And it just like makes it really confusing for the player and parents.
Yeah.
It's like I have to go to all these things, like I have to be in on the in crowd, like I have to, if my kid isn't Joey Gallo, like what is the process here?
Right.
What is the process? So it's really confusing and something that, I think we're pretty well positioned to change and have a pretty good influence on. Have a showcase or, some type of like model for recruiting that is objective and based
Right.
on output and can do it, a decent job of predicting your performance, right?
I think it's interesting. You it sounds like you were pretty lucky in terms of not having that friction, because I think that's also something that is just massively like a massive impediment for a lot of kids. Those kids that are on the edge, right?
Yeah.
You get the kid that's like a decent pitcher, also a decent third baseman that can kind of hit. It's like one coach tells them, "Oh, you need to focus on pitching." One coach tells them, "You need to be a third baseman."
Sure.
One coach,
So tough.
and it's like how do those, and you're getting all these different voices, and it's like how do we focus on like just training the things that will make them better at everything, and then later down the road you can start to figure out where you are, because a sophomore in high school shouldn't be told they're a true third baseman. You need to work out at third base every single day. You just need to be a good fielder, and then they'll figure out. I mean, that's the classic. At least the rumor is that Vanderbilt recruits only shortstops and then moves them wherever they can find a position. Yeah, it's like find the guys that are just good athletes, can hit the ball hard, can throw the ball hard, and then we'll figure out where to put them.
Yeah. No, seriously, I think that's one of the biggest problems. Like, probably academy faces on a daily basis is like, you have to play high school ball. You need to play high school ball, right? Mm-hmm. Like no one's taking that away. Like if you want to play other sports, you should play other sports. But like the goal for me, like from my perspective, is to get to a place where like you actually do have a choice in what you want to do, right? Like if you want to get like take care of your strength and reach your goals in the weight room, like you can commit to that and still be able to play on your high school team, right? Still be able to go to whatever showcase, still be able to like reach your goal of college baseball, when I don't think a lot of players are in that boat. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
They're told to do something, or
yeah, and it's all in the name of just like growing the game, right? Like we're just losing more of these players because of situations like that.
Right. So in the showcase circuit, offers are coming in. How are you like deciding what's the right fit? Like, do you even have information other than like a campus tour and like a half-hour talk with a coach about like how to even make that choice?
No, not at all. I think no one.
Perfect, good.
No one really does, right? Like that's the main thing. My mom, I remember pitching me a business idea of like we should start our own website that's like, rate my professor, but for college coaches, yeah. But I still think it's a pretty decent idea. Because like she's realized that right away. It's like, this is, what if you have a bunch of like schools to choose from, East Coast, West Coast, whatever, D1, D2, like what's the criteria you're looking for? So, and I think that's still something that probably has to be handled by like guidance from your coaches, right? Or your travel ball team, your high school team, and try to help out with like, whatever their experience is. But it was tough. And like, again, just like, got lucky, and I knew which school I wanted to go to, which ended up not being the right choice for me. So like my parents went to UC Berkeley. Grandpa went to UC Berkeley. Like I just once I got an offer from them, that's where I committed to.
Sure.
So So really no process other than that.
I mean, you see the big thing of like the transfer portal these days.
I was just gonna say,
and a lot of old school coaches complaining about it, but then it's like, okay, well that's, is that on us as an industry? It's like, if kids are constantly not finding right fits, is that their fault, or our fault, for not giving them that kind of guidance and giving them the details of like what is important and is it the big name? No, probably not. Is it the right fit? Yes, obviously we can talk about what attributes make a right fit, but we have to give them that guidance to 16, 17-year-old kids who can barely dress properly for high school or whatever,
Who are 16 to 18 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But like once you're talking about college athletes, the fact that there is pushback about us suggesting that like legal adults should not have autonomy over their own decision-making process and the way that they spend a pretty impactful year is just bizarre to me, right? Because yes, the transfer portal affords you the opportunity to find yourself a better fit.
Yeah.
It also affords you the opportunity to leave a situation because it's just like you don't want to be compliant there, and then you go to another situation, you're not compliant there, and then it's just like it's a net loss for you. Mm-hmm. Both of those things can be true, and for young men and young women, I think if you kind of you got to take all of it. If you afford them that autonomy to make that decision, then they have to accept responsibility for when it doesn't go that way. And I think that is just a better path than just kind of like this super binary thing. Like, well, you made a commitment for 4 years. Like, hey man, look, if I'm making this decision about a commitment without really getting a bunch of information about how it's going to serve me, then when I get there, hey man, this restaurant only serves tuna sandwiches. You didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
I don't like tuna fish.
Yeah.
What do we gain by forcing that kid to kind of like to become compliant there? And I understand sometimes you just got to put your nose to the grinds down, work through it, yada yada. I get that, but like
I think it helps make that, like Max was talking about earlier, like giving players like a choice. Like if they are non-compliant in one situation, they move to another situation, they're non-compliant and move to another situation. Okay, now we know that's maybe the player or whatever, and not the situation. But like without that choice, we're just kind of, we don't get the feedback that we need.
Right.
That we need.
It's giving them the ability to hold the coaches accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a free like labor free market situation. We can talk about getting the philosophy of that, but like it's the way I see it.
If a bunch of players transfer out to a new school, and then they all succeed, maybe it's the coach, and like you actually get that feedback from the free market.
What were those tours and visits like? If they didn't walk through any kind of like, here's our plan to develop you and get you drafted, like, did they talk about the draft? Did they talk about going to pro ball at one point? Or was it like, here are our facilities and academics and...
Yeah. So mostly the message is like, here are the people that went to this school and are now playing in the major leagues or got drafted, right? It's just like a travel ball, sales pitch too. Same thing. And you have the facilities, you have the school, like... And it's up to the preference of the player, right? It's like, I'm forgetting the name, but like big prospect just committed to ASU, right? Tamar Johnson. Like, I want to think that they gave him a plan for development, right? But like, is there a real reason he committed to ASU over everything else? Like, it's probably all the intangibles underneath that, And I think it's still the same way. It was like that when I was going through it too. And when I see colleges who roll that out, right, just like have a slide deck ready for like, here's how we evaluate you, here's how we train you, here's the whole thing. It could be bad, honestly, but when you have that, like, it just blows me away. It absolutely blows me away. We just visited like UNC Charlotte recently, before the season, and they rolled out an incredible system. Like, it was really good. It was also just like organized and like, we care about you, and these are the things that we care about, so up front, and we're gonna get you better at these things. It's like, it's a beautiful thing and difficult to do, but something that should be pretty standard.
Yeah, you said they came to you, or they talked about like, oh, we had this player come through this college or whatever. Like, okay, give me the next layer. Where did they start? How did they get to where they were? What factor did you play in that? The development plan for the whole time I'm here, whatever that may be. Like, that is the more important stuff. Like, just because Stephen Strasburg went to San Diego State doesn't mean that every kid that goes to San Diego State is going to become Stephen Strasburg.
Yeah,
it's the Joey Gallo thing, right? It's like, oh, well, Joey Gallo's big leaguer. Like, okay, Joey Gallo was hitting balls to the parking lot when he was 15.
Yeah.
What is the system, right? It's not just like, how did you pick the right biological outliers and get lucky with those kids? What's the system?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and as a 17, 18-year-old, you're just like, I'm sold. Let's do it. Yeah, where do I sign? Like,
Yeah.
it's a bit predatory in that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So get an offer, go to a school, not what you wanted. You got to pivot.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I stuck it out too. I spent 3 years
Right.
at Cal. Like didn't want to leave the school. Obviously, like wanted to get the degree from there. Yeah, I had a lot to figure out as 18 to 21, 22-year-olds do. And yeah, when it didn't go well for me on the field, like I just didn't play well,
Sure.
for whatever reason, like coaching or whatever, like didn't play well. Really hard to manage that, right? And that happens for a variety of reasons. Like I don't think this is like a bang on coaches session for that part.
Sure.
But like
Yeah.
there should be, I never had a goal the whole time, right? It's like I knew like hit the ball on a line, and that's just like all I try to do, which is good. But I didn't know why I was playing bad all of a sudden. It was just like really, really hard.
Yeah.
Just like emotionally, whatever, like very frustrating, and there was no outlet for me. It was really, really tough.
Yeah.
Really
How are you able as a 20-year-old to assess your own situation?
Yeah, it's hard. You need guidance, right? And the coaching part, like, I get there's a part of like evaluating and putting the team together. You got to have a competitive team. That's how it should be. But the other part of the job, the development part of the job, is just like giving kids the right goal and the right path. It's not the day-to-day coaching, right? You don't have to be the nicest guy in the world. You don't have to be anything. You just have to like lay out the goal and say like, hey, you can get better. You can do this. Like we've done it before. Let's just get to work, So that's the big thing I'm like passionate about as a coach too, and like want to pass on to players and coaches, is making sure that we have that process and making sure that no player is floundering without a goal. Like that's my big thing. It's a really hard thing to do, right? Especially for every single level. Like setting goals is really hard.
Yeah.
Setting the right goals is like a pretty technical thing to do. But I do think that as coaches, as people like leading young men and women, like we owe it to them. Yeah. We are obligated to give them that goal. So looking back on it, like that's the big thing that I think that I was missing as a player, and I imagine others think that too. So, and that's why I went out to go seek like the Drivelines of the world.
Right.
I started reading Fangraphs like in 2013, I think.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't what I was trying to do or what my coaches are telling me to do. Yeah. Which actually made me way worse, to be honest.
You get domed up.
Yeah, I mean more domed up than I was, right? Actually,
Sure.
it was just like hit the ball in the air, hit the ball on the ground. Like I can't even figure out what pitch to swing at now. It's like now I'm really like messed up, and it just put me in a bad spot. So, but yeah, a bit off topic, but I think like transitioning into new like methods of training and all that, and potentially some arguments for like old school guys of like you don't want to get too much in your head, like the numbers are going to screw you up in a way that's true, right? But like you just have to have a professional there like guiding you and telling you how that stuff works and what goals to shoot for. So
and it's like, and again, you can't have a goal unless you know where you are now. You're just you, right? You can't do any type of forward projection about where I was and where I am and where I want to go unless you measure something about where you are right now. And I understand, we catch flack, I guess in probably the next week or so, we'll have to have a post out about kind of Driveline Academy development, what we did this year versus what we did last year. Because, we have some numbers, and I get pushback all the time when I post like 9U thrown ball velo, top 8th exit velocity for 9-year-olds. Why is this? Because we have to know where we are to know where we're going. Right. And yes, to whatever degree you want to say that it's ridiculous that we were putting 9 and 10-year-olds in that system, that's fine. It's my system, not yours. The point is that we are trying to communicate, yes, that there is baseball specific aspects of this where like you can essentially plot a course, right? You plot the course from where you are, where you want to go, and how that's going to inform your ability to be competitive on a field. I also think that this is just like a life skill lesson.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
bring it all
That's
the
the
way
biggest
back to
thing.
the beginning, which is just like, if you don't know where you are, you take no measurement of performance, you don't have any idea how to get better or what that even looks like, right? Like this applies to anything. It's just, it is a function of a system that serves you to develop. All the kids in our academy are not going to go play pro ball. If they were all going to play pro ball, we'd probably multiply our price by a factor of 10, 20,
At least.
right?
At least, yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
Percentage of career future earnings.
Yeah, we'll take a couple points.
Royalty.
Right. The point is to introduce this type of system of iterative development and have you learn that as a skill. And if that resolves itself into you being a highly competitive high school baseball player, great.
Mm-hmm.
That informs your ability to be like a successful young adult at like 22, because you actually take the time to understand, like, this is the thing I want to get better at. How do I measure it? How do I make progress and iterate against that?
You're gonna be all right.
You're
if
gonna be
if you
all
know how
right.
to get better.
And it blocks everything
Yeah.
else out that is telling you you're not getting better and you're
Yeah,
failing.
exactly.
If you have something like a North Star to focus at that you're going towards, all the other noise around you that's telling you you're failing is going to be block out a bull. That's the
Yeah,
other word.
that'll
Yeah.
work. That'll play.
That'll play.
Yeah, I feel like that's a biggest thing. Like in telling my story, just as a player, like that is by far the biggest thing I want to get across. As someone who spent a lot of time in that sea of noise, man, I don't want I really want to eliminate that for players. So I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And I think for the people complaining about or questioning the 9U velocity gains, right? I think they're also people who are just like, okay, like one, if you don't think like velocity and bat speed are going to predict your future success on the field, like fine, like we're just going to beat you anyway, like that's okay.
Sure.
But also, like, what do you care about? Are you tracking that? Like, do you have like compliance for practices? Do you have like percentage of athletes who succeeded with first and third plays? Like, you don't. So
Right.
like, and that's really the thing that's going on. Like, it just doesn't replace velocity with anything else.
Right.
Like,
Right.
we choose velocity because like we feel it's the most important trait to have. It is. So that's why it's front and center for us. But like, you can say the same thing with any other skill.
Yeah, if you care about PFPs, like if that's your end all be all thing, are you tracking the percentage of times you make that play or whatever? And you're right, like at least have those goals and measure it and give that feedback for whatever you think is important.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, it's too hard. It's like, yeah, it is too hard. I wouldn't track PFPs either because that's really silly. Like, don't do that. But like, yeah, you gotta pick your things, right? Like, you gotta pick the things that are really important to you, and that's the life skill part of this thing that really excites me.
Yeah, you measure what matters, man. Okay, so you start reading Fangraphs.
Yeah.
Get a little bit worse, but eventually, and it landed at Menlo. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
So is that where the switch starts to flip, where it's like, oh, there's a different way to like actually integrate these ideas and not get kind of domed up about them or spinning your wheels, but like now it's actually turning into like intentional practice?
I wish that was a story that I could tell to you. At that point, I was so jaded by everything. I was just like, dude, I'm not gonna listen to coaches. I've never had a good experience with them. Like, not that they're bad, right? Like, it's just that it didn't work for me. It just like weren't on the same page. So I took that as like, wow, it's a great opportunity for me to do my own thing. I had no idea who Jason Nochart was. Like, why would I? I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And then I just started following on Twitter, and we were just like very aligned with everything, which just like gave me a ton of freedom.
Yeah.
I was actually used to hit with Craig Wallenbrock, who was a legendary
Super
hitting
legendary
coach in Santa Clarita. Longtime consultant for the Dodgers, still consults for the Dodgers. Absolutely legendary guy. So I trusted him with my swings. Like, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm tired of having to figure it out for myself, which I encourage pros and college players to do for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like didn't listen to Jason. Moral of that story. It was just like, yeah, homers are good. Like, I'm down with that. Like, I understand that concept thoroughly. So like, let's just hit homers.
Sure.
And really with that, what Jason and Jake McKinley and Menlo College allowed me to do is just play free play free and play with a goal. Like go hit a homer. And being on the same page with that is literally just coaching.
Yeah.
You know, if I was listening to them, would I have gotten better results? Like probably a little bit, but I think the most important part is like we were aligned with like you get to go out and play and you get to go out and hit homers, and that was a beautiful thing for me.
Was that what sold you on going to Menlo?
So I mean that's a crazy story. That's unrelated to to youth baseball. But I transferred from Cal and went to Cal State East Bay.
Okay.
This is my senior year, so this is my last shot. But that do really well at East Bay, kind of the same thing, like free to do whatever I wanted. It was awesome. Another great coach, Bob Ralston, was there. He's another legend. Let me do whatever I want. Had a really good fall, ready to go into the season. And then I get told I'm academically ineligible to play the next year. So I was like, my baseball career is over. I got a 3.8 GPA, by the way. It was just a weird system. Just like didn't pass enough credits towards like my major or something. So whatever, just like big mistake there, and super bummed out. You know, thought it was all over. But Menlo College, NAIA, no rules. We can do whatever we want. We scrimmaged them the week before, and East Bay coach called Jake and said like, "Hey, you want this guy? Like, he'll play for you." And Menlo actually already started their season before that process even happened.
That's hilarious.
So I come in like two weeks in their season, just like play every game, just like have the time of my life at Menlo. So just an absolute stroke of luck that I got, and that whole process led me here.
Changed your life.
Yeah, changed my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Moral of the story: be academically ineligible.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
That's what I heard.
go to an NAIA. It's like the Pecos version of college.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
So I guess the question is, and I know it's hard to like revisionist history, this type of stuff, but if the big unlock is getting kind of this freedom that is afforded you by simple intention, right? Do you think that the time period from like 15 to 18 or 18 to 20, how does that change? Do you just as a guess, if you have some of that knowledge earlier?
Again, I think it goes back to like, what can I control?
Sure.
Right? Like what can I control as a player, and like what do I need to get better at? If I had that and I had like a professional tell me those things and I was able to execute it, like that would have been a lot different for me. A lot different. And I think that doesn't change going into college and pro baseball. Because like everything was super positive in high school, right? It's like no problems, like got to do whatever I want to do, like quit baseball, got to play all day long. It was awesome. But not having that set me up for like a big wake up call and a big like source of failure in college too. So and I just don't see it being different. Like the big thing in pro baseball too, right, is like we still don't have those goals. We're still not clear on like what you want these players to do. And developing players, it's still for the most part roll the balls out.
Right.
And let the best players like already just accumulate more at bats and become better than you. So that's the same thing. So I don't see that process from like 12U to 18U, college to pro being any different really. Like you need the right goals, you need a path to do it, and you need to have an environment where you can have fun with your friends. And like that path to achieving your goals can't be, a drudgery. Like you have to enjoy that path, and like that's frankly the coach's job too, is to set it up in a fashion where like it's gonna have fun.
So that question was very much a leading question because I have a pretty good idea what you're going to say. This one, I don't know what you're going to say. To what degree is it necessary to play games from like straight up games? 6 to 7 inning real baseball games from 9 to 15. I'm curious because you had that experience of playing 50 or 70 games. Within the academy, we're probably a little bit lesser than that for our 14U and under kids. So like for sure, because they don't have the additional volume of high school games that they're doing in kind of in complementary fashion, right? Your 13s and 14s are largely at a stage where they've aged out of little league, rec, pony, whatever that looks like, but they're not yet in high school baseball. And for us here in Washington, middle school baseball isn't really a big thing. Like I know of a couple kids in our cohort that have middle school ball, but like my son's middle school doesn't have it. So I'm interested, like if you go, let's say 9 to 12 is that part where we want to cultivate rats. We want to have an environment on the field that is enjoyable, engaging, the way that the snack shack is off the field. Like that's what we want. 9 to 12
exactly.
And those kids kind of need to have an idea of like what the game kind of looks like. You know, I'm not sure that they need to play like 3 up, 3 down, 6 inning baseball. That's a different conversation about 9s to 10s. But you want to play games. The interesting window of time for me is like basically 12 through 15, because you have these inevitable changes that we've talked about ad nauseum. Like what I have a hard time trying to decide like what provides the most leverage broadly, because I think that it is really focusing in that specific window of time on the skills that accelerate your path from the onset of like the conclusion of the 15 year through 18U. But I'm not sure. You know, like it's a tough thing. So I'm interested, because you went through that side of it of playing like, 50, 70 games, 13, 14, and then high school ball and travel, how you think that might be different, or I don't know.
It's not necessary. I'll start with that. Like I don't think it's necessary.
There you go.
There we go. Problem solved. But yeah, and like I don't think it's necessary, and I also will preface that with like, that's a very, very hard problem to solve. And as a kid, like if you told me I was gonna play less games from 10 to 15, I'd be like, absolutely not. Like that's all I want to do. So the big challenge is like having that competition aspect, because at that level, I think what players really like is like going out and competing against other teams. It's like that you can't replace that. Like that's something that you need to have. And it's like, big rush, super fun. You have to have that aspect. But I think what we need to do in order to like replicate that is just up the frequency of that experience. Just in like a very condensed fashion, right? So if you're competing against your team, that's great. That's like tier, number 2 right there. And I'm thinking of things like live ABs, right? Like
I was just gonna say that.
Live ABs, controlled scrimmages, and where you make that like kind of tier 2 of like, this is fun, but I know it's a scrimmage. I don't get the same rush as like going against other players. Is when you have it matter, right? In terms of like, and I think the thing that like we're working on the most, like a ranking system, like a composite score of like, I have a chance to like up my composite score that like all these people look at and care about. Just like you would with a video game, right? Or just like what you do with like a perfect game ranking too.
I mean, this is the track and field thing that we've been talking about, right? It's just like it's quantifiable information about player development that is outside of what you obtain from a box score. It's track and field. It's a tape measure and a stopwatch.
Yeah. So and I think like again, like it's not necessary. We shouldn't be doing that. I don't think that's the correct way to go. Of like play a bunch of games, keep the model the way it is. We'll say that I think we have some work to do to make it what we think it can be, to have that like this simulated type of game where you're getting these at bat reps, you're getting these field reps, and it matters in some type of way. And then we'll get to the point where we have other teams that we can play too. And it's not just like go to whatever complex, play the tournaments, maybe win, and play some more games and see what happens, and just like lose your whole weekend for that. Well, it's just like we can condense that whole weekend into like, a one day of practice really, and get the same reps and get the same rush. And like I think if we chase kind of that, like getting the same rush you get from a tournament and replicating it in here, which can be done, like I think that's how we can change this thing.
I like your video game analogy a lot, because think about this may be age relevant, but like think about playing Super Smash Brothers on the N64, right? You wouldn't just.
I'm not too old to remember that.
No, I was sure you were going to go like a new game.
I'm saying that might be too old for some people now with kids. For kids,
fine. No, they got
but you play Super Smash Bros on the N64. if you're trying to get better at Super Smash Bros, you don't just go to a convention and try and go play professional against professional Smash Bros players. You get all your friends to come over and you have a night-long tournament against your friends, and you compete against your friends, see who's the better friend, and then that next weekend you do the same thing. You want to beat your friends or whatever, and you provide that condensed version of, you know, the tournament, rather than just going and playing in a bracket in a professional Smash Bros tournament and getting your butt kicked by some pro.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, I just need to keep doing that to get better. It's no, you go play your friends and play for 4 hours in a night or whatever.
And go one level deeper. The tournament ecosystem is defined by calendar age, not biological age or skill output. Right? If in the Super Smash Bros tournament thing, right? Well, you know, we're at Johnny's house, but Johnny's little brother is like the GOAT.
Yeah.
Right? That kid gets to play up. In this environment, you are almost de-incentivized from playing at what is age appropriate up and down, not only because the tournaments don't allow for it, but two, because it's really hard to find like what on a one-to-one player basis is like equitable individually. You just kind of go, these are our 12 U's and they have to play against 12s. And some of those 12s are going to look like 12s, and some of those 12s are going to look like Tony. Right? Like,
you know, that's the whole thing.
We had a tournament last year in 11U, and I'm like walking over the field. I've probably told this story before, but I walk over and I'm like, man, that team has a lot of coaches. It's a bunch of 11-year-olds that are built like me
and swing and drop eights.
And let me guess, they were better than everyone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they dusted us.
Yeah.
So like, but again, because the tournament ecosystem is just like, we kind of go like, well, that's the thing we have to go do, and it's very arbitrary. And I will cop to the fact that I've had that approach sometimes, and I think some of the planning meetings we've had over the last like 60 days is all about like coloring outside those lines and trying to develop these type of systems, because it affords you the ability to find something that is individually equitable. And then you just create again like this league, like a ranking system in leagues, and you get to scratch that itch. We're competitive. We have a goal that we are tracking against, but it is done in a system where if you are 6 to 12 or 18 months ahead of me on the biological development curve, because development is not linear biologically, now we can just fit the right thing. Mm-hmm. You can put the puzzle pieces together because you're just not doing the same thing that you feel compelled to do over and over and over.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. So, all right, the game thing was it's just I think we're just kind of this keeping up with the Joneses thing about trying to play games and the value prop they're trying to get out of it. All of it just pushes us in a weird place.
Right. Yeah, I think that's Academy's big challenge too.
Yep.
Is like it's just always going to be inertia towards what's normal.
Yeah.
Right. And just like parents, kids are going to want that, and you know, I think we just have to keep pushing on this aspect, and like at the end of it, we'll make a more fun, you know, environment, more game-like reps, and a more objective system for, you know, understanding how good this player is.
Yeah.
I think that's just like, you know, a more fair way to go about it. Less time-consuming, less expensive, you know, all those things, but like, got to find a way to replace that rush that kids and parents get from the travel ball scene.
Yeah.
Having been, you know, intimately familiar with that, and just like scouring perfect game all the time, just like being that guy who just love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have that in some type of way.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's one thing that high school actually gets kind of right, is like you have these C team, JV team, varsity teams. Generally speaking, it doesn't matter what age you are. Like it's talent appropriate, and then you go play other talent appropriate teams. Like you're not having a team of all seniors just because they're all seniors play each other. It's like you have your varsity team that is supposedly
your varsity players.
Yeah, and then they go play other varsity players, and your JV players go play other JV players. Doesn't matter what age they're. Generally, there are, you know, some restrictions to that in a sense, but in a general sense, you know, you're finding talent equivalent teams to go play each other, which is the one one of the few things that high school baseball gets right.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and like, and to again to reinforce this point, I don't lay this at the feet of the tournament organizers because
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not their job. Like their job is just to fill a bracket. It's like I'm not asking my electrician to paint my house. He or
Yeah.
she has one job to do. There's another job that needs to be done, and you just have there's different systems for both.
Yeah, yeah.
And like you can't. I do think that there's a point where you don't always want to eat your own food. You have to kind of get out and play that other team that you've never seen before. But again, if you really at your core want this thing to be more developmental, then you have to make choices in consideration of that. And what's most developmentally positive? It's building skill, it's building enjoyment, it's building engagement. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is. I understand that kind of the conventional container for this stuff is the other thing, where we show up to a tournament. But like, look, if we're in a tournament, and again, we have to, best case scenario, we're going to play 7 games over 3 days. I'm incentivized to run rule your team as quickly as possible. So then you end up with this problem where kids, some of them do need innings and they need game experience because they just need more of that type of seasoning. And yes, I'm saying this with also kind of the context, which is that like, yes, a live AB league solves a lot of these problems, and we're working on that. But like right now, when you have these kids that need that itch to be scratched, but they're in an ecosystem that is inherently set up to deny them that opportunity, all because we're trying to win.
Yeah, right. It's just too hungry to eat with all these things, and just like makes the cycle keep going. The better players get the most innings.
Yeah.
The worst players get shoved out. And so like and that's why like I think we do a good job of like not trying to solve problems by just like more games, or like whatever. But they need reps just like anyone else, and it's all in the name of like we're a baseball development company. Like we're the best place to go if you want to improve baseball skill, right? Just like to get to the next level. But what this is really all about underneath is like getting more people involved and getting more people into the baseball population. It's like, and development's like a very large part of that.
It's the path.
Yeah, if you don't play good baseball, you're not gonna like it. You're just not. We have to get you to that point to be good enough.
Yeah, and it's like, we're talking all about this stuff about systems of player development that's communicated to players. I think the other thing that people have to understand is that like we are constantly evaluating the quality of our system relative to what the players are developing. Those flywheels turn independently. Like we're running the same process. We had an hour-and-a-half meeting this morning, all about how to continue to iterate our flywheel because we have this attachment to player development. We're not being dogmatic about the things we believe to be good. We're not even being dogmatic about the quality of the stuff that we run, because we're not going to be, and you said it best, it's objective, right? We evaluate our stuff objectively and decide, are we getting the outputs that we value or not? And if we're not just going to keep, there's going to be a point where we're going to start looking at like core programming, like Hacking the Kinetic Chain Youth, and go like, all right, this thing doesn't need a whole new can of paint. It needs like a broad review about, is this programming appropriate, and is it getting us the best case scenario output for 95% of the people who are going to buy it, right? Like that same flywheel is turning constantly for those of us that are actually like at the helm of building these systems.
Yep.
And and it's just like you do it, you measure it, you iterate, and keep getting better and better. So I think we've kind of exhausted this topic. Yeah, man, I think it's really important for parents to have the opportunity to like hear from guys like you that have gone through this thing. And again, so you can listen to this podcast, and thank you for doing that. You also can just go to like a local 18U game. As a parent of a 12U, go watch some 18U baseball. Go watch some 16U baseball and see what these kids, these boys and girls look like relative to skill. 16, 18U, man, it's hard to play this game if you don't have core competency, right? And if you understand that, and you also understand the thing you cannot control is the pace of your biological development, like in terms of just like peak height velocity phases. I can't choose that. I can't choose weather. Tony drove 2 hours to a game yesterday that got canceled. We can't choose these things, but what we can choose is to maximize the opportunity for skill development towards a goal during this period of time where we can't control the biological part of nonlinear development. That's the opportunity. Because
100%. Yeah.
that switch is going to flip, and if you are not regressive from a skill standpoint, you're going to be in a good place. If the other thing happens and you neglected skill and you're just like, I'm just coasting along, you're in a real bad spot.
Yeah.
So anyways, for Tony, Jeremy, Max, we'll be signing off from the Driveline Academy podcast. We'll figure out what to talk about next time. We could probably get into like the composite scoring thing if we want, because I think getting into some of those aging curves would be kind of cool. And I'm sure we'll have some other like ugly display of parent behavior that we can touch on too. So
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that stuff is evergreen. So thank you guys. Appreciate you.